Good morning and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of August 18th, 18th, wishing the
19th.
way. Roxanne's en route, so we're just going to start with Chris.
Well, a couple of things that I was asked to bring light to was some routine maintenance stuff around town. Street lights, light poles, particularly around this building and the South Street Bridge. So the status of that is Nick Fretzel was able to get South Street Bridge relit with his ladder. We could reach that. That's all fixed. All four lights should be working.
Those original lights we found, correct?
I believe so. They're just a standard light bulb socket.
But the lights themselves, weren't they missing?
One had at one point broken off and fallen into the river. It was recovering. They're all back in place, fully functioning. Light poles around here, we are waiting for two things. We're waiting for actual replacement fixtures. These were upgraded a couple of years ago through a green community.
Sorry, Chris.
grant.
Yeah, come up into the camera. Sorry, my fault.
For the light poles around here, we're waiting for drivers and LED bulbs to come in for these lights, as well as a lift to access the lights. Everybody's being on vacation this summer. We're waiting to coordinate. Nick is bringing in a scissor lift so we can get up there and do what we need to do with those. So that's the status of that. Another thing, we have 8 replacement posts coming for the cemetery fence, the front cemetery fence. At some point over the years, there were broken posts that had been replaced with cement, in-house made cement posts. Those have deteriorated.
Are we matching the antique ones?
So we are matching the original marble posts. I actually have some photos. Those are cut. The tapers are cut on the posts, and now comes the handwork of doing the broached surfacing.
Right.
4 faces. That's all handwork. There's no machine process to replicate that. So that's in the works. They're coming out of Chester Granite. They ordered marble from their marble quarry source. And I expect those will be delivered to us sometime this fall. Probably not ready for installation this year, depends on the winter, but we will have those in hand, I think, in maybe a couple of months. Again, the hand broaching process takes a little bit of time. So
And they were delayed also, because we put in this order back in May.
yes, so you have a few issues that, you have sourcing, because Chester Granite, obviously, right in the name, it's not Chester Marble, it's Chester Granite. They have to source the marble, then they have to schedule cutting, which they've done, and then again, the hand broaching work. These are not stock items. You don't go down to Walmart or the hardware store and pick these up. This is restoration work.
And did we decide, I remember it was on the cemetery agenda. Did we decide whether we're just going to trim back the bushes or try to replace them, or was that just sort of discussed but not?
The whole issue of
Remove them.
bushes and the rest will be done as part of the restoration. I know that Hugh and the highway crew have been cutting back the brush.
Yeah.
Cleaning it up, making it look better, but any decisions such as that is going to be from the cemetery commission.
Right, I didn't recall if we had made those.
Yep, we hadn't made those.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
So those are, there's a mechanical drawing, shop drawing of what the post will be, dimensions and finish, which, we verified with the original ones. And there's a photo of our actual 8 posts in process in the shop for what that's worth. Doing routine maintenance around here. We did the summer preventative maintenance schedule for the HVAC system. We've identified a number of repairs to certain heat pumps. We're going to next Thursday spend the day doing further diagnostics. So I'll get some prices on what we're looking at for repair there for moving forward. With that, for capital planning, I've mentioned this a few years ago, but we're at a point now. This building was renovated in 2006. We have 144 of these console heat pumps in here, which run on R22 refrigerant, which they no longer manufacture. The only available refrigerant for these is reclaimed at quite an expense. and the life expectancy, again, of any mechanical equipment, you know, we're going to be approaching the 20-year mark.
How many, we have 144 of them?
For these console heat pumps. We will be approaching the 20-year mark for this equipment. We may be getting at a point where we might be looking at
All the issue with the sand and stuff we had in the past.
these heat pumps were subject to and survived several years of the geothermal system. So for capital.
What is that order of magnitude cost? Or, I mean, probably too early to tell.
I'd have to brush up on the numbers from a few years ago, but you're looking at a significant amount for heat pump replacements. I think we might be heading that way. A compressor failure in one of these units is about $1,600. So
Wow.
per unit.
Should we just buy everybody a parka?
There you go.
And again, the refrigerant is, being phased out. They don't manufacture a new R22 refrigerant. You can only get reclaimed, so there's an expense at that. That's again just for capital planning for future. Something to throw out there. And the one other thing, since a bunch of us are in the room, I think there's more than one of us that weigh in on this project, was an update on the fence or gate or combination of fence and gate at the access road at the water and sewer plants. So we're apparently looking into a funding source. There may be an available funding source to dip into. We need to reassess
Had that
numbers
funding.
from last year. And also there's some planning work on the electrical end, if I understand that
And
correctly.
where's this?
The new access road at the
Do
wastewater,
we have funding for that gate?
as far as getting that gate.
We have money in safety, there was safety and security funds that were established, I believe it was for changing over to electronic, some things that were never done, so this fits into security.
Yep.
So it fits within there. It would give us enough money to do it. We did receive back in late May, early June, permission for that to be our access road from Mass DOT, so it's now official. And then we'll have to look at blacktopping and the rest, but that's going to be a future project. But right now, there are some security issues around that has been pointed out. I know the chairman pointed out to me issues of dumping that was told to her about people on the weekend coming in the access road.
Right. We
So-
talked about that in the last meeting. We talked about the sign.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we did.
All right, you did. All right.
Okay, so we gotta move forward with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe, I haven't been to one of the DPW meetings yet. I haven't necessarily been included, but maybe that's a good time to get all the players together so we can get that one
Yeah.
moving forward.
We'll get that going.
We'll have to get new pricing. I mean,
Absolutely. The price of materials is,
Yeah.
And availability and.
that happened to us with these cemetery posts. The cost went up significantly per post. From when I got the
Cemetery post.
estimate.
Cemetery post.
And took us a lot longer to get than normal.
We had talked about, our next, DPW meeting that we have.
Right.
To have Chris come down
Yep.
and meet right at the,
I had mentioned that to you, Chris, have you involved in that going forward, because we want to look at things from water issues and our drainage system and how we can use emergency management planning grants to address those.
Yeah, so there are actually, Mike and I discussed the other day, there are a few new grant opportunities which have been announced through the state, hazard mitigation grants and the like, similar to what we used for the drainage around this building. Those same grant programs are available. And even if it was a phased approach, we could use grant funds for planning and design purposes. And then once we have that in hand, we'll have a handle on what we'd be looking at for costs. Then we can move forward with another grant round, maybe the following fiscal year, and go for some funds to help implement the projects. So
And that's in regard to Elm, Main,
Park Street.
Park Street,
kind of stuff.
drainage through that area that we're looking at pretty closely, along with pump station improvements and the rest, so.
Right.
We do have some, I got them out of the archives the other day. We do have some video footage that was done when we were assessing the issues with this building and the flooding problems. Sort of worked from here and worked out. So we did a few years ago some camera work through the storm drains on Elm Street and whatnot. And so we have a pretty good assessment as to existing conditions. size of the pipe, condition of the pipe, and things like that. So definitely, I know these guys have some working knowledge of what's out there. So things we can work together and move forward.
So similar to what we did with the bridge inspection reports and the RAS, what we'll do is we'll set up on our server a shared folder. We'll have to hook up one of the old computers because our new computers don't have CD-ROMs. So, but we'll have to hook up one of the old and then just lift those up onto the server so everybody will have access to them. So, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had kind of here, unless anybody has anything else or any other questions.
Did you touch on the fact that we fixed the lights on the,
On South Street Bridge, yes, and the light poles here, we have 2 light poles and several of the sconces around the building that need repair. And Nick is working on getting the replacement parts as well as scheduling his, a lift from one of his subs. So that is in the works to be completed soon. I've had quite a lengthy punch list for Nick, and he plucked away quite a few of those this week for me. So we're moving ahead there with certain things. So,
okay?
okay, anything else?
Any questions?
Any questions from the public? Do we have anybody on, Michael? I mean,
There's a couple, yes, there are 4 or 5 on and I don't see any.
all right, my apologies for being late, everybody. I'm having a crazy week.
Not accepting it.
Wait, one.
Nope.
You're not the only one who's done it now. Did you already take action on the meeting minutes?
No.
No, just Sarah, Chris, so.
Yeah, we just said.
Just Chris.
I didn't have the agenda in front of me, I don't know.
Okay, well, we got it. So anyway, I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes for August 5th, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Chief Fennelly.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm here today to request approval for a conditional offer of employment to promote Reserve Officer Chad Heath to full-time status. And I'll give you a little background on that. Officer Borisk is leaving. He's taken a position with Air PD, which is closer to where he's from. So he's, he recently got married and is moving back to where he originally came from. So a big loss for us. Everybody liked Mike, but Mike's doing what's best for Mike, and congratulations to him. But Chad, I feel, can step right into Mike's role. Chad has been with us as in a reserve status for, 5 going on 6 years. Does a great job. Never had any problem with Chad. Chad also works as a reserve officer with Beckett right now. So basically, for the past several years, he's been working full-time hours. He just hasn't had that full-time status as far as the state of Massachusetts goes. So normally, before July 1st of this year, and before the police reform bill went into effect, everybody who was going to be a full-time police officer had to go to a full-time academy. In Chad's case, he went to what was called a Reserve Academy. The Reserve Academy has about half the training hours that a full-time academy does. Full-time academy, you go every day for 5 or 6 months. Reserve Academy, you were going multiple times a week for about a year, but you still only ended up with about half the training hours. With this new police reform bill, they've created what's called a post commission, which will certify and decertify police officers. They will work in conjunction with the MPTC, which is the Massachusetts Police Training Council. In the law, most of what you've seen in the media is just the buzzwords about police reform, which is no chokeholds, things like that. What you don't see is the behind the scenes stuff, and some of that is pertaining to reserve officers. So this law has basically cut off the pipeline of reserve officers. As of July 1st, every police officer in Massachusetts has become just a police officer, according to the state. In your own department, in your own municipality, you can have a status of a reserve officer and a status of a full-time officer. But according to the state, everybody's a police officer. So in order to make everybody a police officer, what they're gonna do is create what's called a bridge academy. So the reserve officers will have to, within 3 years, depending on where you fall in the alphabet of your last name. So A through H will go the first year, G through M the second year, and the rest the third year. So Chad falls into the first year of that Bridge Academy. So what you'll do is you'll complete that Bridge Academy, which will bring your training hours to the same level as a full-time officer. At that point, you'll be certified by the Post Commission as a full-time officer. So that is our plan with Chad. And that conditional offer is contingent on him completing whatever course of study or course of training that the MPTC and the Post Commission requires an officer to complete to be certified.
Does the town or the state assist Officer Heath in paying for this training?
No, that is another thing that happened. So they've instituted this and have kind of left towns with the bill.
Towns or the individuals?
The towns.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I just don't think it's fair for the individual.
So I would assume maybe some towns will absorb the cost. Other towns probably can't afford to do it. It really is devastating to a lot of towns who rely on reserve officers. You wouldn't know it, but the city of Boston had the largest reserve officer force in the state at 140. All those guys are gone. So what it does is forces small towns like you see in Berkshire County who may even just go out of business because they can't afford the training costs and they won't be able to get a pipeline of people. So,
But just explicitly, do we have funds budgeted for the training costs?
Yes.
We do? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right, good.
So if you want to be a police officer, even a reserve officer who wants to work weekends or however you want to do it, from now on, you will have to go through a full-time academy. I don't know many people that are going to endure that just for a part-time job.
Right.
You know, so they've effectively ended reserve officers in the state after this third year. There are no more reserve academies. That's over and done. So, but that's a background on how we will be hiring Chad. So another part of this at this point is that it's not even, and none of this is up and running. So they passed this law back in late 2020. So around the fall, this law actually passed, and it was to be in effect on July 1st. But there's no infrastructure set up. The Post Commission has been appointed. Pittsfield Police Chief Mike Wynn is one of the people on that committee, which is really good for Berkshire County. But they're just now trying to set up the infrastructure for that commission. And the MPTC is struggling and working very hard, mind you, to get these bridge academies up and running. So while Chad was supposed to go in the first year, July to June 30th, that is possibly going to be delayed because the infrastructure is not there to run these bridge academies yet.
So is the Commonwealth going to, because they're putting a time limit for these officers to get this training, are they going to be extending that from the time they actually have these training centers up and running?
I would hope so. We haven't received a whole lot of information on it. Just Tuesday, we had a meeting here in our community room with the Berkshire County Chiefs. We discussed some of the issues that we're experiencing with this whole setup. Our representative was going to relay that to the Mass Chiefs, or the Western Mass Chiefs representative to the MPTC. They were meeting yesterday. I don't know the results of it. Today, there's a big Zoom meeting for the state of Massachusetts regarding the post commission and, police reform law, their status and where they are right now. So that's at 2:00 today. I'll know a lot more, hopefully, after that Zoom meeting. Yeah, that's where we are with this. But nonetheless, Officer Heath is with us here today. If you have any questions for him, like I say, I can't say enough good things about Chad. As far as a police officer with our town, he's been excellent, excellent. He's a family man, married, has kids, lives right over in the next town to Lee. Well liked by the other officers in our department, respected by officers in surrounding departments. I recommend highly that we bring him aboard as full-time. So, and Chad's here if you have any questions for him.
He's welcome.
First, I'd like to thank Mikey.
Oh, yeah.
Pleasure working with him.
Absolutely.
Gonna miss him. Great officer, and good luck in your adventure in your life with getting married. And I'll make a motion that we accept Chad as the,
We'll make a motion that we're going to accept approve the conditional offer of employment to Chad Heath as a full-time officer. All those in favor? Or do I have a second?
Second.
Just a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I would also like to say that from probably all of us, that good luck to Michael Burris. He has been an amazing asset to the town, and we welcome Chad, and I have every confidence. Chad and I go way back, so we were partners on the ambulance squad. So I know Chad well, and I have every confidence that this is going to be a very successful.
It was nice working with you too.
Thank you very much. I'll just throw in that Mike's last day is the 27th. Chad's first day will be the 28th.
Good.
Okay.
I do have a question for the chief.
Sure.
Peter Steiner, Willow Street, where I used to live.
You want to
Mohawk Lake Road. Now, we're losing an officer and gaining an officer, which is perfect.
Yep.
But he has to go to school.
Yes.
What happens, does he go to school 5 days a week for 3 months?
Okay. Good question. So the Bridge Academy, what we're, as I understand it right now, and again, it's still in flux. They're still trying to figure out what is going to be included in that academy. They know that they want to get to the full-time training hours for that academy. A lot of the classwork parts of the academy where you sit in an academy all day long will be done now online. So there'll be a lot of online training to that. And what they're thinking is going to be about 200 hours of online training, which is really good for us because he can probably do it on after hours and things like that. And the other part of it, like the EVOC training, which is the driving, the PT part of it will have to be done in person. So it'll be probably 75% online and the rest will be in person. So what we'll end up having to do is probably when he's out for those trainings, we'll have to backfill and overtime for that. But we're budgeted for that, so.
For the 75 hours?
What's that?
When you say we're budgeted for that, I mean, just as a fairness, the guy's married, has children.
Yeah.
Are we really expecting him to do 75% of the work, after hours? I mean, because.
We'll figure out how it gets done. I'm not sure how we'll do it, depending on how in-depth the course is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, we go through 40 hours a year of in-service training anyway, all of us, which is all done on officers' time off. So, and they get paid overtime for that training. So it'll be similar to that, just a little bit lengthier.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Good work. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is highway updates. Hugh?
How you doing?
Morning.
First of all, cleanup continues at the highway garage. We're moving along pretty well with that. Also, we're going out locating, trying to identify, locate, find basins, culverts, doing some cleanup there. We're trying to just hit points here and there this year. We're trying to just, find them so we can identify them and make some determinations. Next year, we're hoping to be more aggressive with that. With everything going on, we're trying to get our highway garage up and running, tooled and staffed and with the storm cleanup this year, it's just been chasing our tails with that, with the weather that we've been getting. So I appreciate everybody's patience on us working on the roadsides. We're trying not to tear up more than we have to. Obviously it just costs more money and costs more time. So that's continuing. So again, please just be patient with us, as we work forward and, cleaning up our washouts and our culverts and our catch basins and doing that end of the maintenance. Roadside mower, the mower's out getting work done. This fall, we hope to be very aggressive with our roadside mowing, getting everything knocked back. So I asked if people have favorable plantings that may be in the path, then maybe they look at maybe pruning them or having them pruned to help identify them so we avoid any issues with highway taking down something that we shouldn't. So I asked maybe work with them on that.
Talking about the, property owners.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we have plants that encroach in the town's right of way. And we try to keep that back so we can maintain swales and culverts. And not only that, with our trucks coming up to par up a little bit and new trucks coming, we don't want to knock our mirrors off and scratch our trucks up. So we're trying to really get things kind of cut back. And it's visual safety issues too, so it's a lot more than just, mowing things back, So anything that's maybe favorable to a resident, we don't want to just mow it down. They can help identify it, so. We're just moving forward to clean up the mowing and the roadside maintenance this year. We're trying to be, just spotted here and there and get through this season and more geared for next year, that's kind of what we're doing, so.
Right. I know that we've had an issue with basically some plantings that are on people's property that did have to get cut back. But as you, when you are out, are you going to be recognizing them and then letting maybe Michael know of who we should notify?
Yes, we have talked once about maybe getting something together and notifying, where our projects intent are, like paving and stuff. I mean, if you go up on Indian Hill, for example, there's a lot of, favorable plantings that are really encroach the blacktop area. So now if we go up there and if we mow it back, it's not gonna look pretty, it's not gonna look, the way it looks. So if things are pruned and maintained in a more green thumb manner, then, that would help both parties out. That would, help, I don't want to, people upset at the highway from trying to maintain,
Right.
our right of ways, so.
I mean, one of the other things that's come up in the past is when things have been cut back, it ends up looking pretty hideous for a while until it all grows back. So with those larger encroachments, are you going to take the time to maybe use a chainsaw and, actually saw it back and take it out of there?
I think.
Opposed to just, that.
Yeah, I think if it's on, private property, I don't know, I don't want to.
I'm talking about within
The right of way.
Right of way.
Yeah, I mean, I know last year we did a bunch of roadside mowing and I went through with the chipper and I kind of pruned things back and
Right.
neatened it up. That's my plan, but my plan next year is to be able to open things up or get things open this fall. Next year, we can kind of go down roadsides and work our roadsides. We can do a lot of that pruning and cleaning and the culvert work hand in hand, so we can mow and maintain roadsides without knocking our blades off and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
well, and the other thing that everybody should be aware of is how short-staffed we are. And this is kind of a universal problem that it's been very hard to hire anybody for any position. So Hugh has been at a big disadvantage this year. And hopefully next year, we'll start going a little bit back into normal and we'll be able to hire a full complement of summer help, to assist.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with our scenic byways or scenic roads bylaw, I had heard that the electric company didn't often maintain trees along those ways because of that bylaw. Do we have a sort of special plan or is there any differentiation between those roads and normal and the rest of the roads in town and how we sort of maintain them?
I think the main thing for us, I mean, again, that gets into a favorable planning, recognition, you got to recognize these and we try to maintain them, but in the same token, we got to maintain them that it's a maintenance and safety, I guess we got to work hand in hand with that and we got to make them decisions.
Yep.
And use best judgment moving forward with that, that would be the.
And my other question is, how do we decide when it's a planting on the side of the road versus like gravel or those big stones? Because I noticed that in some cases, the big stones that sometimes like at the corner of my street and Hawthorne Road, they seem to end up in the road sometimes. And I worry about my motorcycle safety, and sort of like, when people are cornering, if there's a lot of sort of, gravel on the road.
Yeah, it seems like we try to fill our washouts, and that's on our to-do list too. We got a lot of washouts. But again, it seems like you fill them sharp corners and things and people just kind of move over more rather, they keep cutting the corners sharper and sharper.
Right.
We do work and it ends up out in the road and we chase our tails and go back and clean it up. So I'm not sure, other than paving it, and then it just moves that issue over further. So, I guess other than, courtesy.
I don't know anything about that. I'm just asking because I just noticed.
Yeah, we chase our tails a little bit up there in an intersection.
Yeah.
We go up and it just seems to migrate back into the road. And we push it back and leave it neat. And then people their trucks maybe cut the corner and it ends up back out in the road. And it's, yeah, other than, putting a rock there or something, and then that might create a safety issue, I don't, other than maybe a little awareness, I guess would be the proper word.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention is I know that National Grid, they've been out. And I think part of this is because of the weather. We've had some of these major storms, major windstorms, and obviously all this rain. And so now apparently it has finally prompted them to start doing some of this free work. So I know on my property, they were taking down part of a hickory. Next door was a hickory and a cherry. So I know they're out there and I've seen them around town in various locations. So at least that has now become active again. And they're starting to pay a little more attention to, okay, where are the dangerous areas in terms of worrying about losing our power during some of these storms. So it's going on.
It is, they're coming up on their 5th year. So every 5 years they come in and do the cuttings around electrical wires only.
Right.
So not around streetlights, not around, but around
And they
electrical
won't
wire.
necessarily take down the whole tree. 'Cause
They
I know
won't
for my
necessarily,
tree,
right.
they were just taking down the portion where they thought there was an issue. And they're
Yep.
actually, my neighbor's hickory actually had burn marks on it from the electric. So they were taking,
Right.
I think, a lot more of that one down, but.
And typically they identify the trees that they're going to take down. They communicate with the people in the homes so that
Right, they
they're aware of
notify
it. They want it to be done in as safe of a way as they can and as open of a way as they can. But they do need to get some of the trees out of the high tension wires, and that's why they come through every 5 years. So they're just beginning that process
And
here.
they do need your permission as a property owner. So when it's on your property,
on
they do
yours.
come by. If you're not there, they leave you this little sheet to fill out and give your permission, and then they schedule it, and you don't really know when it's going to happen, usually within a couple of weeks. But all right.
And one more thing I'd like to touch on, I see myself more of an in the field individual rather than sitting at the desk all day. So when I have messages and emails, a lot of times I look at them real quick first thing in the morning. We start early, so I don't feel the need to call people first thing in the morning. I have sticky notes on my desk and, you know, it's not an avoidance thing. I'm not, you know, I'm more than welcome to talk to people about things. But it's just maybe conflict in time, I guess, because I get and I try to hit and go and I stop in and I check things and, you know, so it's not, you know, no, we're not ignoring anybody. You know, we try to call people back as soon as we can. I appreciate when people leave messages thanking the highway and I immediately pass that on to the guy. So that's appreciated too, that, you know, some people are recognizing our situation and, you know, we're trying to do the best we can. So
Pass on our thanks.
We think things are looking quite good, so.
yeah.
Nice job on the sidewalk out here.
Oh, I gotta finish it up.
Really nice though.
It's again, it's another one
And,
of time management when the cars come, I don't want to.
Were you doing any paving this year?
We're meeting with Dave Stokes from Mass DOT to go over all the chapter 90 roadway paving and the rest. We do want to try to time, we don't want bridges out and like crossroads out. And now that some of the bridge projects due to the weather have been pushed back, those are some decisions that will probably be coming back at the next selectmen's meeting to talk about as to whether or not we want to do them late fall, then there's disadvantages and advantages to that, or first thing in the spring before we get into the tourist season. But either way, we'll be setting it up soon.
One of them was
Next Tuesday, we're meeting at 10. Well, Larry Wog Cross Road.
Hidden Lake Road too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
so.
we wanted to do the bridge in one shot, but the bridge isn't going to be done in time.
Well, and the weather sort of pushed things back. So this is where we need to make some decisions because we don't want the
springtime's fine.
bridge closed and those roads closed during construction. That would really jam up everything. So, you know, we're either going to do them late fall or first thing in the spring. We're going to meet with Dave Stokes and then I'll bring back to the board for the next meeting and discuss it further as far as the roads. So we had the three identified, Interlake and Larry Wog, Pot, Indian and.
No, the approach and departure on
Yeah.
Indian Hill, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get that detailed out in the chapter 90 program and we're meeting with Dave Stokes from Mass DOT on Tuesday.
And where does Vine Street fall in all of this? Because I know that was.
They were 1-2, yes. I'm glad you said Vine. I was trying to remember the other one, yeah.
It may be hard to get contractors.
Well, and everybody's behind and, right.
Hooked right up.
Yeah.
So I had a chance a few days ago to talk to Mike Beck, who's the executive director of the Town Garden. And, you know, since they renovated the center house, which is about, the driveways to both are about 30 or 40 feet west of where the crosswalk is now. And they see a significant amount of their patrons now just kind of hopping across that street. I know that there's a reduction in the speed limit, but their concern is that a lot of people ignore it and they see people buzzing by at 50 or 60 miles an hour. And they express a concern anyway, and I'm certainly no expert, so of safety issues there and whether there were any ways to try to further reduce speed just around and maybe add a second crosswalk where now that with the center house, that new renovation, people aren't going 30 feet using the crosswalk and then going 30 feet back, you know, between their parking lot and I'm just.
First, I'll say this is that crosswalks have to be spaced a certain distance apart. So the idea of walking 30 feet to a crosswalk, you would not be able to put a second one in.
Yeah, or maybe
You have to take one out and put the other one in. We did get an email about that and we will set up something to discuss with them.
And I think
what
we
options.
should also discuss this with Chief Fennelly in terms of.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just relaying the message. I'm not advocating.
Because, you know,
that's
those
state.
portable units do tend to slow people down.
That's state too.
Right.
And I think that the three of you are far better versed than I am. I'm still new at this, these kind of public safety issues. I'm just relaying the message, you know, and you know, figure out what we can do next. Of course you too.
Yeah,
Okay.
And that's all Mass Highway.
That's all Mass Highway.
that's all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You said you were meeting with them, so.
Right.
Right.
But maybe we can
Yeah,
talk to Chief Fennelly and,
look at possibly putting radar up in that area.
exactly.
I think some of that might be a reflection of the bridge. People go to turn the bridges out and they get frustrated and they, you know, maybe that's.
No, they just go by that fast. I live right there, so they're flying by my house too.
Pretty main highway, so.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the public? Okay, anything
Double
else,
check.
Kim?
No, again, I appreciate everybody's patience. Please, try to just be patient with us and if I forget about you, please call again. I intend that we're all
Thank
just
you.
out there doing the
Yes,
best we
thanks
can.
you. I think you're all doing a great job.
Thanks to you.
Okay. So BSO one-day entertainment request for
I'm gonna step down for
extension.
this one.
Pardon me?
I'm gonna step down for this one.
Okay.
We're doing Mike and Tony.
I think we're gonna do Mike and Tony under project update.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Want to get them out of here first?
If
Or?
you want to go to,
I checked off the wrong thing on the list. My eyes are really bad.
Yeah, because I'm gonna run into the BSO.
You know,
So project
they got work to
updates.
do.
And do you both want to come up or? Let him do all the talking.
So the only projects we really have going on right now are, I guess, the Curtisville Utility Bridge. I don't know if that's closed out now. Retainage has been sent back and, if there was gonna be leftover monies, we were gonna try to do a little more security up there. So we can chat about that. I don't know what's left over for monies, but, Tuckerman Bridge was a special article on the town meeting floor. I think Mike was gonna get the contract squared away with Foresight.
got it over to them. We've made the adjustments in it and I'm just waiting for them to send back a signed copy. Same thing with the pump station. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So those are the two projects. I mean, as far as regular daily stuff, we did our quiet no water tank had its first water interior and exterior inspection. It's a DEP regulation. Every 5 years, we have to do a full inspection on the water tank, and that was done and everything is fine. We've been rolling along with all the sampling up at the Stockbridge Bowl. We did some yesterday with, in partnership with GZA and that's all. We're doing it monthly.
How's it going?
It's going.
Any
Going
worrisome
fine.
signs? Any worrisome signs?
I sent data to GZA yesterday, Chris Main, because it seems like our stratification is certainly up a little higher than
This is for the cyanobacteria.
usual, and it was a little suspicious to them, so, Chris was gonna forward that data to, Bob Cortman, Dr. Cortman, and, Dr. Cortman's actually gonna give me a call and ask if he wants us to start checking every other week or weekly, which is quick. And big thanks again to Chuck Corder, who lives up on Lake Drive. He's been a huge asset to us. We can just go and jump in his boat and run out and to do the sampling. If we do need to do anything weekly, we just need to go up and drop the sand. Our equipment that we have, no sampling required, which is really quick, just maybe an hour round trip. And we can get the data to Chris and Dr. Cortman so they
That's
can.
Chuck Kohler, you said?
Yeah.
Chuck
Yeah,
Kohler.
he's one of the harvester operators.
Yes.
He is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
he's
Thanks, Chuck.
He's a great guy.
He's been great to work with. He's just a super nice guy.
Did Chris Main of GZA, did he make any comment in comparison to last year when we started to turn, when we started to see this kind of
Well, I
stratification?
mean, I noticed it right out of the gate. We were starting to see increase in turbidity and a drop in dissolved oxygen at 7 meters, where usually we see it at 10 or 11.
Okay, so the same time of year, okay.
The first thing we do is we drop the Secchi disc, and May, we were 21 feet, which the Secchi disc for everybody out there is just it's a black and white disc that we drop, and you visually inspect how far you can see it down in the water column. You just drop it off the side of the boat or rope. And so May was 21 feet, June was 19 feet, yesterday was 13.
Okay,
So the water is turbid. Of course, we've had some crazy weather this year. And with that, we're seeing difference in our water supply. The Lake Averick is definitely more turbid, and I've been having to play around with water filtration units quite a bit to get incoming turbidities and stuff taken care of. So I will forward any information to the board and Mike, just to, Chris is analyzing and Dr. Corbin is analyzing right now. I would be surprised. I should probably hear something today if they're in any alert. So they said we'd probably go out in a week or maybe 2 weeks to just go out with the sonde and see what kind of stuff is going out in the lake. And so it was definitely noticeable, and that's why as soon as we gathered that data, I just took a picture of my sheet that I fill out and I sent it right to Chris. And so we took quite a few different algae samples at different depths because they said there's things going on for sure, so.
Okay.
And I think Josh is September 19th, so I did let him know about that date as well, so. So I think that is basically it for me.
Okay.
Has any questions?
Any questions from the public? Chuck, you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I just wanted to compliment you on, I had a chance to read this, it came in yesterday, and it talks about how great, not how great, but you know, how on top of, it was very complimentary to the management of the watershed. And,
The watershed inspection.
Yeah, and I just wanted to compliment you guys on that.
We'll be talking about we had a DEP watershed inspection, which we have every 3 to 5 years. And they did one in, I want to say it was April or May or June. And we'll be talking about the report in our next water and sewer meeting.
Yeah.
Everything went well.
Yeah, no, it was a very complimentary, the management, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I need this back. The agenda.
Sorry, it's
Where's
last
the
page.
agenda?
Sewer department goes, project-wise, Mike touched on the Curtisville Bridge being finished up, which was a good project to get done. And the Park Street Pump Station obviously is, the borrowing aspect has been approved at town meeting, and we're hashing out some things with our engineer. That should be forthcoming this week, hopefully. As far as the sewer department, we've just been on the defense as far as housekeeping this summer with the amount of rainfall we've been subject to. The plant's 34 years old, it's coming of age with some moving parts down there that are getting a little older. We have some known issues of I&I that have been addressed, identified and not addressed, I should say. As to date, but we have them on our radar. I think Chris talked about looking into the drainage and looking at grants to possibly maybe fund a project to help mitigate that. And other than that, we've really been on the defense as far as just trying to maintain our collection system and maintain ground with the rain we've been inundated with. It's no surprise to anybody in town that our pipes, most of our pipes are older in the downtown area, and we get a lot of water.
I have a quick question for kind of both of you. Just two things that came up. They're sort of related but not related. At Mackinac Heights, obviously they've got a private water company that really impedes the ability for folks who want to live there full time. And in fact, there's one property owner who has to get a variance on the Board of Health because the parcel's so small related to the house that there's no place to put a well that can meet all of the offsets or, you know, whatever the requirements are. And you know, I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts. And then there were obviously the folks on Lake Drive who sort of similarly, on one Concom visit, I noticed there was even a cesspool still on Lake Drive, 30, 40, 50 feet from the water. You know, I mean, we got some old infrastructure on private property too. And I just wanted to kind of get your sense of, you know, is this just something we have to live with, these kind of situations, or should we make it a priority? Like where do you guys kind of see us sort of addressing it? Because I certainly don't like there to be reasons why people can't be here, you know, year round rather than just 2 months a year, like something like.
What happened in the past when we connected everybody to the sewer in Mackinac Heights, whether or not they can get a variance, I have no idea about.
No, I'm talking about the water on Mackinac Heights, not the sewer.
So that's a private water system.
Yeah, I know.
Run privately. It's a hodgepodge of pipes kind of run on top of the ground. And, but I will say that since we connected a lot of the people to sewer up there in, you know, the 04, 05 project, They're able to abandon their tanks, original septic tanks, with a timeline created by the Tri-Town Board of Health, and then they can drill a well. So that's been a big improvement.
Oh,
for
yeah, that's
properties out
true.
there.
Right, right.
As far as cesspools on private properties, I'm not touching that one.
So to speak.
That's a neighbor Board of Health issue,
All right.
town issue.
Yeah.
Right, this is, I mean,
They're
basically.
not illegal. They're just sort of like, I guess they're grandfathered, I don't know.
Well, no, yeah, they've been there. But I mean, this is a sewer and water commission topic and also a select board topic. I mean, this is, we have to weigh what the priorities are. So, and I think that the sewer and water commission itself has to like weigh in on that.
Yeah, and one of the things that Tony and I and the commission, we've all been talking about is, as Tony just mentioned, the pipes out here in Main Street, we're over 130 years old with a lot of our stuff, and it's still in service, water mains and sewer mains. And I mean, to run a water main up to Mackinac would be millions of dollars.
Oh, really?
Oh, it'd be,
Oh, yeah.
it'd be a ton of money, because I mean, the water main is right down at Pine Street and Vine Street, Shamrock intersection. That's the kind of the closest where you would come in and over Interlake and Crossroad maybe. But so that being said, and we've talked in our recent meetings, is just we really got to get fixing our stuff that we have.
No, but
before we start.
that's a separate question. And this is once again my ignorance, not that this isn't a policy recommendation, but are there parts of town where we should have a relaxed set of standards around where you can put a well on your property so that people don't have to go to the time and expense around a variance?
That's Board of Health.
That's Board of Health.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
So that's not a bylaw, Stockbridge bylaw thing. That's a
No.
Board of Health.
That's the Board of Health, that's state, that's mass general
that's
law.
mass-
No easy way to solve any of these problems, is there?
No, there's no easy
The way to
solution.
fix it is through the variance
Yeah,
process.
but we gotta
Yeah,
really look into upgrading downtown
yeah,
the
maintaining
next few
what we
years,
have.
replacing lining, whatever you gotta do. And bite the bullet and take care of that before you end up with a major disaster.
Maple and South they're 130 years old, water and sewer.
You gotta dig it up, you gotta dig it up, you can line it, we can line it, but I think within the next couple of years, we gotta have that project in motion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you look on Elm Street, Patrick, you'll see there's indications that there's serious problems because we have some dropping.
Right.
So you'll see where like, the stone is dropping at the edge of the sidewalk, where you see the erosion in front of the post office.
Well-
Those are all indications of problems.
Look, I think planning is the number one thing here is like, obviously, just listen to this conversation, that's the priority, it would seem. But,
Yeah.
the fact that we're setting priorities, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
But
We've
that's,
got some, and Huey and Chris, and we'll all be meeting, and Tony and I and Mike, we met from the church on Elm Street down to Maple, and all that drainage, all those catch basins go down to Park Street behind the salon and down behind the old VIP travel building. And the Park Street drainage, it's all undersized, so everything backs up and it's flooded.
there's actually some of our line ins tie into there too.
What's that?
Our line in drain ties into that too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Found that out back in the-
So there's a lot to be, out of sight, out of mind is always. There's a lot of work on Elm and Maple for all water, sewer and drainage. All three of them are really in.
Let's not pave over it again.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be addressed. And take
Digging in Pompeii at this point.
Last week, and we were on site down there on Park Street, walking the street and talking to neighbors and getting some concerns from neighbors. And, we saw some things that are definitely red flagging to us that it's a big problem.
It'd be nice to have this for the next annual town meeting to vote on. Seriously, I mean, that's what needs to be done.
Right now, we're hoping, like Chris said, to apply for a planning grant through that. One of the things we are doing is, I've established a couple just internal committees of staffing. So public service is one of them. So including water, sewer, highway, myself, and emergency management will be included because there are grants specific to that. And we're going to start identifying, prioritizing, and bringing these to you guys and saying, here's what we need to address.
But we know this already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a way of even
Secret here.
better communication between the departments. And, we started off This was our second one. The one before that was actually reviewing the bridge inspection, all the most recent bridge inspection reports, which we all know we have a bridge issue. We have bridges that are out and we're trying to get ahead of them. Every 2 years, all of our bridges are inspected. And we want to begin reacting to them. And the first one we're reacting to is the Tuckerman. And
So what, are we actually doing work on Tuckerman right now?
we're doing the evaluation of Tuckerman and then what options there is to address deficiencies.
And are we going to have the same issue with water and sewer and electric that we had on Curtisville over there?
No, we're not seeing that. That's, we're not going to let the bridge get to that point where we have to do something like that. This is getting ahead of,
I'm just asking.
getting ahead of this,
Yeah.
dealing
The
with,
issue- Yeah, the issue in the past, everything got pushed on the road, keep taxes down, let's just. sweep this under the
Yeah,
rug.
keep on the
Not-
preventative measure.
we're not doing that.
reactive.
yeah.
No, you have to stay ahead of the game.
We're doing preventive and.
And that's what the
trying to
reports
get-
are for.
We gotta catch up and then.
Yeah.
prevent.
Yeah, we got a little,
We gotta catch
a
up.
window here of catch up.
A lot of
And
catch up,
then,
so it's not
once
a-
we get through that, like Mike was just saying, we want to be proactive, not reactive.
Right, have a maintenance program.
You've been reactive too much.
Yeah.
No, we're-
Well, on a lighter note, I just remembered, where do we stand with those decorative? Where are they?
They're still in the interlaking fire. We'll get with you, we'll get
Well,
that.
it's time for
What is
holiday,
the-
holiday decorations now, not
Over by
planning.
Curtisville.
Right, right.
Curtisville, the more attractive
Barriers,
barriers
as opposed to the,
to the ugly square
The
big.
ugly Jersey one.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, anyway, so they've been sitting around for a while, but I know these guys are like, slammed and they're busy.
And the loader's been out fixing a lot of, that's the only thing that can move. They're so heavy, so.
And then there's the issue of people parking there.
Yeah, well, that's no big deal. We can take
Okay.
that. They're easily contactable. I have they are very
Okay,
easy to get a hold of and easy to work with on that.
okay, thanks.
It's on a sticky note that you guys, it's on my list as well.
I keep pushing it off because I don't know what to do with the blocks that are there other than bring them back to the yard.
I don't know if this is an inappropriate time, but seeing how we're talking about bridges.
Peter, can you come up and
I got
identify
one there,
yourself,
so.
please?
I don't want to, are these guys done? I feel like I'm maybe
I
like.
just want to, can I just follow up? I just want to follow up, a little recognition for some folks that really put forth a lot of effort while I was out of town. We had one of the worst events in history back in mid-July. I happened to be on vacation. Mark, our helper, our 50% helper, water sewer helper, Mark Viola, was very diligent, working till way into the night, trying to resolve the issues we were having at Park Street, as well as Hugh and Mike. And it's nice to have a lot of interdepartment cooperation these days. It was probably the worst weather event that I remember being for that station, the 50-year-old station down there. And I just wanted to kind of recognize the efforts of everybody that helped out during that event.
Right, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that Mike Buffoni had mentioned it. You may have still been out in one of the other meetings, but yeah, Mark Viola worked almost nonstop. I mean, I was a little concerned about him because he was out there so much. And then there was the day when you're changing the motor out in the pump station. So yeah, thank you guys. All of you did a great job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peter? If you can just identify yourself.
Peter Schneier, number 1 Mohawk Lake Road. While we're on the bridges, just could we get an update on 183, the bridge?
I was coming up on that.
And also, how about, is it, I don't know if I ever pronounced this right, I've lived here all my life, Averitt Road,
Yep, I was going to go through both of those.
and I did have an interesting thought, and I was going to do it yesterday, but unfortunately the rain was so bad when I was coming home. I own a place in Upper New York State. They literally shut down Route 8 up there for 4.5 days and put a box culvert across there and reopened it.
Wow.
And the brook is called Black Creek, and it's twice the size as what we're dealing with at Averitt Road. And I'm just wondering, could we maybe expedite getting some of those things done? I mean, it seems kind of crazy to me. When I see that done up there, it's like unbelievable. And the next time I go up, I will take some pictures for you guys just to show you the scope of what they did there in 4.5 days. It's like unbelievable. I understand a lot of it, the going through jumping hoops and everything, but it would be kind of nice to see some of the roads opened up. I actually own a place in Sheffield and I have to drive around, get around Great Barrington all the time to get to Sheffield by dodging or finding open roads and not traffic jams. And it's just, I just was more curious maybe on the 183, what the timeline might be on maybe that getting opened up. And I'm sorry if I was out of line. I just figured it's a time to.
Out of line.
It was the time, absolutely.
Legitimate question.
Talked about.
I was prepared to speak about those. So I will start right away with Larry Watt Bridge. So as you know, originally the completion date was October 30th. Due to the weather events that happened, we have extended the contract out to November 19th. Since those events where we lost 3 weeks of work due to the high water levels, and they were obviously working in the stream, they are on schedule for November 19th. So everything is heading and the bridge itself should be open. Now, there may be some small things. I've already talked to them. They may have to come back and do the lumen seed in the spring, just because it might end up being so late in the season that it wouldn't be efficient. But the bridge itself, the majority of the work and getting that bridge back open should be done by November.
And we think that by Thanksgiving, they'll be open or it'll be
Yeah.
completed?
Yeah.
Open.
Great.
Yep.
That's what, 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. They'll definitely do a binder coat, which will still allow the use of the bridge. And it could be, once again, where the finished top coat could be a first thing spring, just depending on how cold it gets when the plants shut down and things like that. So, those things getting pushed back do have, it was obviously uncontrollable what happened. And when the water level got to that point, just all work had to be ceased at that point.
What does that do to the budget, that 3 weeks?
It doesn't affect the budget at all. All it does is allow them granting of time, which was fully justified, reviewed it with the engineers. There was no reason not to extend the completion date that we have on it. So we originally did it as a very aggressive schedule. Minimal change orders to date. Everything's moving along really well. Maximilian's doing an excellent job on it and our engineers are overseeing it. I'd like to thank Hugh, because between myself and Hugh and the engineers aren't out here, we send them pictures and information of what's happening so they can take a look at it and make sure, but they do come out for all the major milestones. So Micah was out here on Tuesday. He's our engineer from BSC Group, same group we use for the MVP program. They're an excellent group, but he was out there because they had another milestone where they were doing the water sealing and the rest and putting up the walls. So the good news is by the end of this month in early September, they should be out of the water. And if you go there, you can see that most of the in-water work is heading toward completion, which then will make them less susceptible to high water events or anything else. Obviously before, when they were doing the footings, they were actually doing the footings 5 feet under grade, and they had, so obviously when the water went over, it completely submerged everything and they couldn't operate during that time. But like I said, that's the plan. Right now it's a November 19th completion date. Bridge should be open. And like I said, there might be some punch list items that would be pushed off to the fall. To the spring, loom seed, things like that, but not the actual, nothing that would impact the bridge being open and operational.
Can you say loom and seed? Just maybe explain what you're talking about to them.
They would just put down new plantings all around to grow grass and the rest. And down in, there's even, I believe, some native down in the stream bed where they actually have to plant native species for in that area. And that, but it would clean it all up. But like I said, by November, that's the last piece. And we might be out of the growing season and it wouldn't make sense to spend the time to lumen seed at that point. So those are some minor things, but overall bridge should be operational in November. So it's been a long time, but it's almost there. Want me to continue?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. And I'll just go through the bridges and if we want, we can pause and have questions on the bridges. So Averitt Road, That one is actually a much smaller window. So deconstruction of the existing first Averitt Road Bridge should happen in September. Construction of the bridge will be done in October. And by November, we should have that bridge completed. So the first entrance in. Now, I will say that one of the things is the town, my understanding, the town did look at things like box culverts and other things that can be much quicker placed in. And decisions were made before to put what's called a Texas style rail, pre-poured cement, which those things create a much longer time construction period, especially if you're doing cast in place projects.
Would it have made sense to do both of those at one time?
We had probably, but the funding those decisions were made before I came on, so I can't really speak on those.
Yeah.
I just know that the funding was in place. We needed to move forward with that one. And then what we're immediately going to do is apply for another small bridge grant for the second one and get the second one done. So again, if you're in design process and you're doing the rest, we're looking at, $900,000 roughly.
And the state has indicated, just so we know, that before we apply for the next small bridge grant, they want to see this bridge completed. And both of those are set for November. So there is actually some method to what seems like madness here.
Well, it's $1 million in grants, so.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I understand.
It's just financially, it would have been nice to get them both done and get it
I'm
open.
trying to exercise some common sense.
Yeah, but
I think we've talked about a goal of getting the bridges back open, getting them all redone and really pushing them aggressively forward.
Yeah, the goal is
And
really,
preventing any others, like Tuckerman getting on top of that now, preventing any others from getting to the point that the state actually comes to us as asking us to close bridges. So,
yeah,
So
we
it's
also,
three.
we have many of these though that have been hanging out there for years, like the Curtisville, and that's going to be a high priority item for us to actually make decisions to be able to move forward with those. But in the meantime, as he said, Tuckerman, we want to be on top of it. And so we want to change the dynamic as opposed to reacting. We want to be proactive.
All right. And plus, a lot of these bridges are beautiful. And if you let them get to the point where they effectively have to be torn down, it's just a tragedy for the look of the town. I mean, it's an aesthetic imperative too on things like the Tuckerman, let's make sure, we can save these structures we do.
You never want to let it get to the point where the entire bridge has to come out.
Yeah.
You want to at least be able to maintain your traffic with one lane if you have to be working on a bridge. So.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions out there?
Garage. So the garage, questions.
Well,
Or
is anybody in the public? I can't see, so,
I don't see any, there's no chat questions.
okay.
Not sure.
Hey, Mike, I have a question.
Yep.
You were talking about the lumens over on the Larrywag Bridge.
Lumen seed.
Lumen.
topsoil.
Topsoil and plantings of grass.
If that's not done until the spring, is there a concern with erosion there?
No, well, the bottom line is that planting outside of the growing season, you're not going to get it to catch anyway. So timing wise, the bridge has been like it is right now. They would have to leave, they'd have to leave protection in place from barriers and the rest to prevent any erosion into as much erosion as we can into the stream. So
like the straw wattle.
still fencing, straw bales and the rest, yes.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else out there asking?
I don't see anybody else.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead, Mike?
All right, garage. So we're on the final phase of the garage. They are supposed to be coming back to put up the snow guard on Monday. It's supposed to begin. So I received an email from Marks just yesterday about that. So Hugh, just so you're aware, they'll be down there. See Ned over there now. So Ned, we'll have them down there doing that last piece. This will pretty much close out the garage project.
Good.
overall, majority of everything's done there. There are some small punch list items that we're just gonna clean up as we go along. So it is.
The only part that's not done is Talbot, obviously. Do we have any plan yet for moving
So
it?
Hughes almost got the area down there all cleaned up, which was one of the conditions of the Conservation Committee letting us use the property. So now the next step will be in the next month or so, looking at what can we put there on that slab. I need to review with the building inspector what we need, because if it's a swap shed, which is what we're proposing, and
Well, swap shed slash wildlife.
wildlife, yes.
But people ask, like, kind of bottom line, when might we, without making a commitment, do we know yet, like, when, sort of, how long all this might take to?
Well,
point where we could have-
by the time they're done cleaning up at the end of the month, by the time we make a decision on what we need to install, getting power run and the rest, if I'm being safe, I would say that we're gonna be opening coming out of winter. So,
It'll be next spring.
next spring.
Because it's not, the Talbot Center always closes the last week in December.
Right.
So we're talking about the spring opening.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I think
I mean, it's-
It's what it is, what it is. I just want to give people an honest answer.
To be
Yeah.
safe, yeah.
yeah.
It's, you can't come anymore.
This was my messenger question. That I was asked by
While you're here.
very nice old lady. Peter Schneider, Mohawk Lake Road. So her question was, I knew nothing about this. I actually was at an event and she came up and asked me if I knew anything about it. I don't know why. I don't know anything about it. When I go to the landfill, I don't even pay attention to the Talbot Center because I just figured it's been closed for so long now that it didn't matter. So she said, well, I hear we're building a new one. And is it gonna cost us any money? And I'm like, I didn't know anything about it, but I said, well, she said, I'm too old to go to the town meeting, so could you go and ask? So, so I'm here on her behalf. So is this gonna cost the town money? I mean, what's, and if it is, how much?
Yeah, we haven't determined the cost yet of exactly, but if we're building, basically if we look at possibly putting up a pre-built shed, something from like sheds and stuff or something on the existing slab, which I believe is 20 by 30.
Yeah.
The slab that's over on the side. We're gonna start working on those costs, exactly how the building would need to be set up and done properly. Because the existing one, we can't continue to use.
Is it gonna require a vote from the town to spend the money to do that?
I think a lot of it's gonna depend on what the final cost is. We think that, if the costs are, I'd say, we're gonna have to get back on this one. Probably within the next month or so, we're gonna have some decisions on the actual direction of what we can put there, what type of structure it needs to be, what the building code would require, because we do have people coming in and out of it, and depending on how we classify it and that, and then figuring out what it'd take. And then, right, the cost does escalate. It could end up being an article on town meeting, or something like that.
But if we can avoid that, the justification is that, obviously the highway garage project, this that impacted our ability to use the Talbot Center. And so if there's some way to sort of like, put that use back in within our existing budget discretion and or authority, I would certainly support that, because having been a volunteer there, a tremendous number of people both use it as a way to recycle or upcycle, as well as there's so many young families with children come in. We don't think that we have a lot. We actually do have a lot in Stockbridge, well over 100 children. And I remember seeing so many parents with their little kids in the toy center. And I just really personally think it's an important part of our,
Oh, I'm not against it.
No, the idea was to do a prefab to keep the cost down. So we think that's the most cost-effective way to do that. Yeah, especially with building materials being so high. But the other idea was that it also will be a combined, wildlife refuge center. So we are actually recognizing the fact that that land over there was donated, and it was donated for that purpose. So went in front of the Conservation Commission, and the condition is we clean it up. And they thought that was a good idea to have that combined usage. so that we would have information about that area as well.
Could somebody define the wildlife refuge, what it is, what the building?
It's land that was donated to the town with the specific purpose. It is allocated to be a wildlife refuge, bird and wildlife sanctuary.
No, the land, the
No, but the
property.
building that is sitting there now is a pre-existing building on that land. And so there can still be a building because that's grandfathered. Conservation Commission are the ones who actually manage that particular piece of property for that donation. So that's why we had to go in front of the Conservation Commission and say, do you think we could utilize this property? Could we put the Talbot Center there? If we combine it as also an information center for this bird sanctuary. So
Placards.
it's going to be a combined kind of use.
So one other question, as long as we're going on with this, so are we losing the old Talbot Center, is that being
Yes.
torn down?
That will eventually have to be,
Has no function?
it has no function. We were looking at, we would have to spend quite a bit of money to put a new walkway in, to fix the center, the existing building, which would have been a 3 to 5 year solution. We're trying to find a 10 to 20 year
No,
solution.
I'm not talking the Talbot Center, could it be utilized by you guys?
Storage or
It's
something.
in-
I think that would be part of the whole evaluation and planning, as we move forward, we're cleaning out, we're recognizing the building that we thought we might be able to utilize, we can't. So I think that's part of let's decide what we're putting there. Then we'll decide the best way to uses of that building, or is it, beyond use? And maybe we'll tear that down and utilize the footprint for some other storage dumpster building. We don't know yet, that's part of the whole process, I guess.
There's a bit of an insect problem in that structure.
Yeah.
Concerned about mold, concerned about, it can't be a public access building
Right.
anymore. So,
I
right.
think part of it is for so many years, the water has run under it.
Yeah, it's just-
Yeah.
And it's just, and so much stuff.
Maybe that could be the wildlife refuge.
There you go. Yeah, so that would be part of the plan, I think.
So what about the existing building on the wildlife sanctuary?
We would take that down.
Okay, it's been deemed that it can't be reused as a swap shop?
Too much work.
It's in,
Very well.
I think if we're doing a long-term solution, the best thing is a new prefab building on the existing slab.
So that's got to go through historic preservation to tear that down.
Yeah. It's probably gonna fall down on its own.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
If I didn't throw that out, a member of that commission would yell at me tonight at dinner.
All right.
Just skip dinner tonight.
All right, we will make sure that we reach out on that. Yeah.
Real quick on that building, they set the building, then they poured the slab inside the sills. So the sills are all compromised, and anybody knows about building, once you start that, and it turns into this building is ship in a bottle.
Right.
So.
It's probably just substandard.
That building is, right?
Remember the old building or which building we're talking about?
The existing building.
Oh.
That's,
It's in bad shape, yeah.
yeah,
And they just drag it out there and probably pour the slab.
exactly, which is fine for its use in the day, and it's just,
Sounds like a good Halloween kind of theme.
yeah.
So the next one is trees. So the ash treatment has happened. The bids are out for the hemlock treatment. They're due back on August 25th. So that's next week.
So we've gotten the same question now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll be getting those back in. We'll evaluate those and then move forward on that. We have the cemetery study, which is also out. That didn't have to be a bid because it's underneath, but it was to the point that you have to do a mini quote. So we put together a specification, myself, Karen Marshall, and Chris. We got it out to vendors. We're waiting for the response back. Once the response comes back, we'll bring it to this committee and then we'll go from there. As far as the cemetery restoration of the old section. So, and then we'll go from there.
Speaking of ash trees, one of the things that they noted was the need to update the FMP, I think it is, for the ash trees, that are not going to survive in the watershed. Are we doing that? Is that,
Most of the ash that is left up there is all dead.
yeah, we got lucky at Ice Glen. None of them are died, the giant ones.
Yeah, so, we cut about 150,000 feet of ash out of there 10 years ago. And once all the traps were put up, those purple traps, and they started seeing the ash borer come into the area, Tom Ryan recommended to us, the state forester, if we want to go back into that area and get some more of that ash out, it's all going to be gone. So we did go back in and take more ash out, and it kind of worked out because one of the lumber mills had a huge order for ash and they didn't have anywhere to cut it, and we got really good money for it. Not that it's a money thing, but and all the seed stock that we left there, we walked up through there, what was it, 2 months ago? We went up and fixed the road, yeah, and it's all, every one of them. I don't think one of them's alive.
So are we planting something else there?
Oh, we've planted a ton of seedlings in that area.
But not ash I'm talking about?
No,
Okay,
no.
all right.
Chime Tower. So we met with EDM for moving to finalizing the construction and bidding out the project. So while we were meeting with EDM, discussion came up around, what type of knowing the sensitive location of the Chime Tower in a very visible place. We were speaking and it's our recommendation, and with our engineers, we get everything bidded out, and they begin not this fall, but next fall, the construction, because the work can actually get done during our non-tourist season. If we wanted to accelerate it, it would be a spring, summer construction, but that means scaffolding on the building, trailers on the lot for the construction crews. We'd still put up the mesh fencing with screening on it to try to minimize it. But with the church there, weddings, everything else, we think that this gives us time to reach out to the neighbors and everything. But we'd go out to bid in the spring, get everything lined up, because a lot of this is going to be them ordering specific stuff, including like the slate for the roof, matching up materials that they need to match up. And then the construction season would begin after Columbus Day of next year.
What's the duration of the construction season for this?
They're anticipating that it would be between Columbus and Memorial Day.
So
They would be able,
months?
they would be able to get the work done in the off season. So, yeah. So we think that would be the best plan, gets everything lined up. And then the only other decision is still the final decision on the bells.
So,
Which I will reach out to the historical, we'll go with them now that we're in this final phase. Get that done, and it gives us a few months here before, it gives us a good 5 months before we're gonna put the bid out to get all those questions answered.
but if it can't be done in 9 months, at least my preference would be that we accelerate it and just get started and get it done. I mean, if we can really do it between October and May, great. But if it really realistically looks like it's 12 or 15 months, I'd rather.
No, it's not. It's definitely, some of the work that's being done, the masonry work, if it's done right, like they said, you won't even notice a difference because they're pretty much filling in cracks, grouting and other stuff. That's not a significant time. Obviously, the rebuilding of the wooden cupola up top will be the biggest piece.
Okay.
And they'll have to bring cranes, other things in, and we just didn't think that doing it during our tourist season would be, the building looks externally fine, but internally it has some issues. Once again, we're getting ahead of it, so it's not to the point that we have to do that. This would allow us to line up, get the construction, get a company in, have them ready to go first thing right after in October of 2022, and have them work through the winter on this project, and with a finish in the spring, and then in the summer have the scaffolding and everything else that would need to be put around the building down. So if it was concerns that we had to go faster, we would move it up, but I think that would be more on safety or, issues with the structure itself. The structure is solid. It just needs the work that it has, which once again is to us, we've talked about it, it's a 40 to 50-year fix. So once this is done, the Chime Tower is going to be in great shape going forward. So we just want to take in all considerations. I mean, it's up to you guys, but our recommendation is that we move with this time schedule for it, which, like I said, keeps the construction out of our main tourist season for something right in the heart of Stockbridge.
Oh, absolutely.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
All right. It was touched on Foresight. We're going to be contracting with them. We're just finalizing the contract, and then they'll begin the evaluation of the Tuckerman Bridge. And then we'll bring that back to you guys in time that we can actually take action for town meeting and depending on what needs to be done with that bridge. But we're trying to get ahead of it and get some of the stuff done that needs to be done on that bridge that's been identified in the bridge inspection reports. I will send each of you copies of the most recent one for the Tuckerman, so you all have copies. I'll actually send you the link to our shared folder so that you can go in and look at all of the most recent bridge inspections. So one of the things that we did do is the bridge inspection reports now go into a single folder that is viewable by myself, Tony, Mike, Hugh, Chris. I don't know, do I have you on that yet? I got to get you on that, and the select board, so that it's not just going to one person, that we have it going to multiple people, so that we make sure that we stay on top of these reports as they come in. And they're done every 2 years on 11 of our structures, of which 4 of them ended up being closed by the state. So we want to get them back open.
And you're confident that they have the structural engineering expertise?
Yeah, on the size bridges that those are, yes. They have the expertise. They use, I forget his name that they use as the engineer for the project.
I was just responding to some of the questions raised by one of our retired engineers in town. And just as long as we were comfortable, good. I'm.
Yeah. And then it was noted that we have the harvesting moving forward. So Foresight completed that work. It's come back, the harvesting plan. So that's good for 3 years. We've begun. Won't be a lot this year because we're heading into the fall here, but we'll be ready to fire up first thing in the spring. And we touched on briefly that we have the person for the pump station. We're finalizing the contract with them to move forward on the pump station, final completed design, and then construction bid documents. So we're moving on that. He was working on the truck. Erica's working on getting the notes lined up through our banks for the borrowing for the truck that we'll be getting. Hugh, did we have any more word on the truck?
As we left it yesterday, they do have a cabin chassis, and they do have an all-season body sitting there. We're finalizing the details on getting the two together. That's the truck that we should have for this year. I mean, we should. As of now, we look comfortable, so we'll have something else to fight.
I'm not sure if we mentioned the only issue that we have is that the truck, is this the gunmetal?
Yeah, it's
Not gunmetal, graphite. So it's graphite in color. The one problem is if we want to order a green truck to match the rest of our trucks, we will not have it until spring or summer. So they are so far behind. So one of the things that Hugh has talked about is pinstriping or striping and adding our things on it that he would put on in green. So the truck would be not that, but labeled in green.
Well,
And
that
was for the white one?
White one, and that, I talked to them, and that truck doesn't have a VIN number yet, and they've stopped all taking orders. So if it doesn't have a VIN number at this point, there's no definite time. This cab is on the ground, they've got we've locked it down verbally.
Yeah.
We're ironing it out today, but we should see it,
So unless you guys have a real preference that want us to wait for a green chassis.
I don't.
Yeah, good, proceed.
Putting the town seal on the trucks?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yep, the medallion on the door, yep.
And it's just the way things are right now, coming out of COVID that,
Yeah.
everything is, and they are not taking orders, and Hugh's done a great job of pursuing these guys and finding one that's on the lot and moving forward with that. And then the treasurer is working on the pump station, chime tower, and the truck borrowings.
And did you guys ever evaluate, I think that the bonds had an option this year. Were you just rolling those into completion date of whenever it was later in the decade?
Oh, as far as when,
The existing bonds, some of them.
so the ones that we were doing, there's a couple of them that, due to the fact that we have some debt falling off in a couple of years, we were gonna do 2 interest, for like the chime tower is a 20-year borrowing with 2 years of interest only, so it'll fall in that 2025 issue when the principal payments will come on. So yeah, we're doing all those. That way we keep the borrowing principal and interest payments as level as we can, so we don't have any
No, I
wild
understand.
fluctuations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing to explain.
Yep, so that's what we're working on now through the treasurer's office. So we have that, and what we're gonna do with the fire truck or the highway truck is that's gonna be a 5-year note. And then with a plan of continuing the 5-year notes after that. But that only adjusts the borrowing by roughly about 30,000.
Right.
So, yeah,
Good.
Any other project updates?
that's it.
Okay,
Doing good.
thank you. Any questions from the public?
You sure?
Okay, so are we doing these or are these moved? Are these going to be postponed? The BSO? One day entertainment requests? license
So
requests?
they've submitted 1-day entertainment requests for extension beyond their normal hours, which is normally 11. So I'm not sure if we have somebody on right now from the BSO. Oh, here we-
Yes, on the Zoom.
Hi, Kyle.
How are you? How you doing?
Okay, how are you?
Good.
So you were requesting to go on September 4th, October 10th, and October 17th to 1 AM. Is that correct?
So I've got September 4th, September 19th, October 10th, and October 17th.
Well, I've got September 18th here as 12/12.
12, yeah, 12 o'clock, sorry, yes, you're right. So, yeah, 1 AM for the 4th, 10th, and 17th, and then 12
Oh, I
o'clock.
got the wrong days. Yeah, the way it's written. So anyway, I think we need to discuss the 1 AM, because I know in the past, which I'm sure you probably remember, you requested from the previous board for us to extend to 1 AM, and I think what we ended up doing is saying midnight would be the. These are all indoor events?
Yep, they're all at the Lindy Center. We're not allowing extensions to any of the locations that are considered outdoor, like the tent, any of the tents or chamber music hall.
Okay. I mean, the obvious concern is not necessarily noise in this case, but people coming, people leaving much later in the evening because of the local residents in the area. What are your thoughts on this, Chuck?
Last time we decided 12, I think it was for a reason of the traffic and the noise like else. I would recommend that we leave it at 12.
I do want to note just for the board that, all right, so. I'm trying to, the date's October 10th?
No, it's actually, I read the wrong dates. So September 5th,
All right.
October 11th, October 18th, they're asking for 1 AM. And Chuck is proposing that we limit until midnight. September 19th was already at midnight.
Sorry.
We gotta do it for the other ones too.
And the others,
Because you got,
So the 5th
Garden
is,
Center
the
has
5th is a
indoors.
Sunday. The 11th and the 18th are Mondays?
Well, so the September
Or
4th,
Sunday, sorry. 10th and 17th are Sundays,
these are Sundays.
right.
Sundays.
I don't know if that impacts, I was just,
And what's the 5th?
so the 4th to the 5th is a Saturday and the Sunday. And then the 18th to the 19th is a Saturday and a Sunday. But the October ones are Sunday and a Monday.
Monday. Okay.
So I wasn't sure if just because that's a Sunday into a Monday, if that made any difference. I just wanted you both to be aware of that.
yeah.
Okay. No, and I think basically we already set a precedent for this, and that is the main concern. The main concern is the residents in the area and the amount of traffic that's flowing out and at what time, because we all kind of know that even, it takes some time for everybody to filter out of these events, especially if it's a really good wedding. And I'm assuming that you're probably putting on some pretty nice weddings there. So I would move that we grant the one-day requests with the exception that all will end by midnight.
I'll second that.
Do you want
All those in favor?
Do you want any discussion first?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to allow any discussion from the public if there's anybody here?
Oh, sure. Is there anybody here out there in the public that is interested in this? Who'd like to comment or ask a question?
This is Kate, and I'll just say that we had 2 years ago, 2 test weddings at Tanglewood. One of them was at the Lindy Center, and the other was outdoors, actually farther away, but it was extraordinarily loud. And these are all indoors at the Lindy Center, and I'll just speak for myself here. The noise was totally contained. Traffic was routed towards 183, and there was no problem whatsoever. I had a contact number to contact, in terms of decibel level if things were noisy. So really, it was totally fine.
Well, I'm not sure what test you're talking about. I know that Chuck and I were both on the board, and we had one that was requested until 1 a.m. and we limited it to midnight.
Right.
I'm not aware of anything that went till 1 a.m.
So yeah, look, you guys, I appreciate your support for abutters, that's for sure. I'm just letting you know that from my standpoint, in terms of any noise and any traffic, I feel that we had a very good, arrangement that was worked out when we had these 2 weddings. Well, with the one wedding, the other one, there was definitely noise. But I felt that the arrangement worked well, both for Tanglewood and for me. So that was my idea of really a good outcome. So I'm just, putting it out there, and I know there's some other neighbors who are actually, in this instance, a little closer than I am. So I think, they should definitely weigh in too.
We have a hand raised for Maureen, but I don't think it's Maureen.
Thank you. It's Ken Krenza, 2 Gideon Drive. I am one of the neighbors, a little closer than Kate. I personally, at 1 o'clock in the morning in these weddings, I don't see traffic being that much of an issue. I really don't. And if the music is inside, I have absolutely no problem with that. So putting my 2 cents in, I don't see the difference between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. I really don't. We don't get that much traffic, and the noise is not an issue. So I'm all for Tanglewood having their permit.
We also have Ben Lipton.
Yeah, so I'm also an abutter. And all due respect, Ken, I'd like to be asleep by midnight, so I'd rather limit it to midnight as has been done in the past. The other question I have is the request did not include amplification. I assume that means outdoor speakers. I assume that there will be amplification indoors. And as long as the doors are closed, the noise should be tolerable. Is that correct?
Correct. It would be indoor only for amplification.
And the Lindy Center, just so you know, is soundproofed, correct, Kyle?
That's correct.
Okay, I mean, the other thing that we have to take into consideration here is in any venue within a residential district, we have to tend to be consistent. So you're not the only venue that's in a residential area. So that's part of this consideration in terms of we need to be able to be consistent. We have other areas where maybe it would be much more of a problem. And certainly we have some residents that will be disturbed after midnight. Do we have any other questions or comments out there?
I just want to make one comment. In the future, we get a lot of pressure from our wedding clients to ask for this 1 o'clock. And I'm not trying to contest the town at all. I do have to ask because all this information is posted online, so that if they go and check to see what we're doing, I am at least doing my best to advocate for them. That's all. I just want to make that known, that I'm not trying to contest the town. I'm just putting it out there for the client, and that way the client knows I'm advocating for them.
Right, maybe because this is an entertainment license request.
Yep.
We're talking the entertainment ends at midnight.
Correct.
That doesn't mean everybody is gone at midnight. That party continues, so.
Stephen Stern.
Steve, you out there? Stephen Stern?
I am. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Stephen Stern, 4 Emerson Lane. I am in a butter. My comment is, and it's been kind of said, but I'd like to just mention it real quick, let my feelings be known. As long as what is going on is indoors, the noise shouldn't be a huge issue. My feelings would have been different had that been different. 12 o'clock seems utterly reasonable to me as far as a time, and just wanted to let my feelings be known in that regard. But it's all about indoors and outdoors to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just feel, if you go to 1 o'clock, then you got Chesterwood, you got Garden Center and everything else in the neighborhoods, and it affects everything different.
Right.
So I'll make the motion that it's 12 o'clock.
Okay, I
for
second.
Entertainment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
But you gotta be blanketed here.
I want to be
Segregate.
consistent.
Bye, Peter. Thanks.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Good job.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, I move to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.